always going to be hate when you're extremely successful. He's really doing numbers and out here killing the game. I don't know why people take time out of their day to spread negativity on a young artist making waves. It's a fact, man. That's a fact. I mean, I made my own video about my, thoughts about this whole situation with the Kid Laroi and all the hate and backlash that he's getting. So I definitely want to hear what Blackie got to say, bro. Blackie's one of those hip hop dudes, his opinion do matter. Feel me? So sit back and hear what my boy Blackie got to say.
Now, the Kid Laroi hate, definitely a conversation that's very relevant right now, and you probably know that if you've been paying attention to the response he's been receiving as an artist these past few weeks. So yeah, let's talk about it. Now, the Kid Laroi, an extremely new face in the game, a 17-year-old Australian rapper slash singer who's been making his way up in the industry rather quickly. Laroi is definitely an interesting case, man, and I touched on this briefly on a video I made on him a couple weeks ago, but I sense that he's gonna be one of those artists who ends up going in that Post Malone route in the future. From what I've seen, he's actually already on it, and I'm saying that because the initial label that was stamped on him was a rapper. That also happened with Posty when he first came out, and then now that perception is shifting a little bit. People are simply not so quick to call him a rapper, which does make sense considering how his music is actually sounding. Specifically, as an example, So Done and Without You, that's relevant because these are his two biggest records at this very moment. It's one of those things where your biggest records, aka the songs the most amount of people find you through, can a lot of times dictate how the masses categorize you from an artist's perspective. Anyway, regardless of that specific conversation though, Laroi is hands down one of the hottest new artists in the industry right now. The guy's getting streamed like crazy at the moment, has, like I said, 2 records out right now that are doing insane numbers. He just has a lot of force behind him, and yes, that force for sure involves label support because he is a signed artist. Now, over 2 months ago though, we saw him getting a lot of backlash for that Reminds Me of You record. Like I stated in my video I made about this, the track dropped on the 1-year anniversary of Juice WRLD's passing, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because why drop it on that day to take the attention away from Juice's anniversary just to promote this record? Like expected, Laroi received a lot of backlash since he was the face of this collab, considering the fact that Juice isn't here, right? So the only person to blame? Laroi. My take on this was and is, I don't blame him for it because I know that there's only so much a 17-year-old has in terms of leverage when he's signed to a label. The label is going to do what the label wants to do. If they see an opportunity to capitalize on whatever, as long as it kind of makes sense, they're going to do it. Despite the backlash though, the outcome of that record was a good one. I think it was
for a fact, the song was a very genuine song, man. The way I looked at the collab was basically like Laroi and Juice WRLD was very, very close with one another. You know what I mean? So I didn't look at this song like, oh, Juice WRLD, well, the label's trying to get clout from this song, you feel me? Trying to make Laroi as big as possible. I didn't look at it like that. You know what I mean? I just look at it like, oh, snap, Laroi's on the song with Juice WRLD again. You feel me? They cool. You feel me? Like, Laroi looked at Juice WRLD as an older brother. You feel me? So, I don't know. But what Blackie said does make sense, man. The label is going to do, what the label want to do. You feel me? It's not that much that Laroi can do as a 17-year-old that's signed to a label. You feel me? So I agree with that.
Generally a dope sounding record, and that's why despite the negative feedback he received, it ended up fairly successful. Now,
I like the song.
I made a video on the Kid Laroi surpassing Lil Uzi Vert in terms of monthly listeners on Spotify. This became a heavily discussed topic on social media after Rap posted this on their Instagram that then led to everyone giving their take on it, and there was that. But why was the Kid Laroi surpassing Lil Uzi Vert such a big deal? I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it was really a big deal. I just think everyone made it a big deal because people don't realize that despite Uzi being such an established name in the rap game, he's obviously not immune to being surpassed for now by Laroi, who, like I said earlier in the video, is one of the hotter acts out right now. I don't think this says anything about Uzi. I don't think this says anything about Laroi. It simply is what it is. That conversation then transitioned into another conversation, and that is who exactly is listening to the Kid Laroi. How is this guy who blew up in quarantine not only surpassing guys like Lil Uzi Vert, but how is he doing these kinds of numbers, man? That is a really great question, and the answer to that a lot of people are listening to the Kid Laroi right now. This right here goes hand in hand with the Kid Laroi as an artist. Is he a good artist? Is he a bad artist? Why do people like him? Why do people not like him? Let me speak for myself because that's all I can do. There's a couple things about his material that I don't like. On the other hand, there's also a couple things I do like, which is why I have a couple of his songs on repeat. But here's the thing, man. I've personally never understood the concept of not liking an artist and recognizing that other people do. These are two things that kind of collide because there's a big difference between liking and recognizing. You don't have to like something to recognize why it's great to other people, which is why I think there's been so much negativity thrown his way. It is a little more complicated than that though, so let me elaborate. A couple weeks ago, someone on Twitter put up a post that went kind of viral. I responded to it and I'll leave a link to it in the description below just in case you want to check it out. If you don't, I'll explain what I said on this video, don't worry. But the post was a screenshot of the Kid Laroi's monthly Spotify listeners, which at the time was around 25 million. That number has jumped to 27 million as you can see from the screenshot on the screen. But apart from his monthly listeners, the Faking Hate streams lyrics from A Lot by 21 Savage and J. Cole was attached as well. Just in case for some strange reason you don't know the lyrics, let me recite them really quickly. How many Faking Hate streams can they place from machines? I can see behind a smoke and mirror, niggas ain't really big as they seem. The faking streams part is in the focus here. The tweet I'm referring to pretty much said, J. Cole had a point, this is getting out of hand, and then Laroi's numbers were posted along with the quote from A Lot. This was another heavily discussed moment, and then out of nowhere, boom, Kendrick was brought into the conversation because people started posting Kendrick's monthly listeners since Laroi is now beating KDAT on that aspect. Right here, you have a screenshot of Kendrick's monthly listeners on Spotify, and as you can see, it's sitting at 25 million. My response to the whole faking his streams thing, he's undeniably one of the hottest new artists in the industry right now. These numbers make complete sense. Continuing though, there are a handful of reasons why Spotify monthly listeners don't really mean anything. Actually, let me contradict myself for a second. Yes, they mean something, but they don't mean as much as you would think. And just for the record, what I'm gonna talk about next doesn't necessarily apply to Laroi, and you're gonna see why right now. Spotify monthly listeners don't really tell us much about how many actual fans you got, meaning can you sell out a venue with the strength of your name and your name only. That's what we call hard tickets. How many hard tickets can you sell and not how many streams can you get. Loyal fans who are gonna show up for you are really the end all be all, and the reason why I said this doesn't apply to Laroi, well, because like I briefly mentioned earlier, he blew up in quarantine, which means he hasn't toured, which means he can't be judged on this aspect. Although, let me speak prematurely and say that I think he's gonna do great whenever touring as an artist is possible again, simply because he has a pocket he's owning right now. And I always mention that pocket thing throughout all my videos when I'm talking about different artists, and that's because it is a very much real thing. This goes hand in hand with your music being in demand, which when it comes to Laroi, it absolutely is, since he's really popular right now. You can't be not in demand and be popular at the same time. These are two things that go against each other. Although, let me play devil's advocate, just because you're popular, that doesn't automatically guarantee that people will go out of their way to purchase a concert ticket to one of your shows. The same exact logic could be applied to all the people who watch my videos but forget to hit that like button. I just caught you slipping, huh? Also, another thing I want to clarify really quickly, what exactly is Spotify monthly listeners and how is it measured? I think it's really important to clarify this because this has been such a big aspect of this entire conversation. According to Spotify themselves, this is how they explain that. Monthly listeners are unique listeners who play your music during a 28-day period. And then they also clarify by saying two important things to clarify about your monthly listeners. They've listened within a rolling window of 28 days. We use our rolling window of 28 days because the number of days in a calendar month can vary, and because people listen to music differently depending on the day of the week. This means an equal number of days of the week are included, so the same number of Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, etc. And then last but not least, one of the most important
I have a challenge for all of you. Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer, and install
things regarding how month of the week. This means an equal number of days of the week are included, so the same number of Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, etc. And then last but not least, one of the most important things regarding how monthly listeners actually work. These are unique listeners. If someone plays your music in a 28-day period, they only get counted once. That's so important to know because people think streams and monthly listeners are the same thing when they're really not. Regarding how streams are counted though, this is how Spotify explains that. Streams are counted in Spotify for artists artist, when a song is streamed for over 30 seconds, your total streams include all songs where you're credited as a main artist or remixer. Now that we got that out of the way, Laroi's monthly Spotify listeners being higher than Kendrick's doesn't say anything at all. What I can tell you about this is the fact that here's a guy who's dropped a bunch of material in 2020, is an extremely popular artist right now, has 2 songs that are extremely successful, has an abundance of the most valuable thing any artist could have right now, which is attention. On the other hand, when was the last time Kendrick dropped a solo album? Well, damn near 4 years ago. The disconnect here is comparing and being surprised that a new artist in the industry is surpassing someone who we all know is more than great, Kendrick, in monthly listeners, when that doesn't really mean much at the end of the day anyway, since the man Kendrick hasn't dropped a solo project in almost 4 years. When it comes to the crazy amount of Laroi hate though, the core of it all comes down to number 1, he's a new artist in the industry, and not only is he a new artist in the industry, but he's also risen extremely quickly. Why is something like this leading to him getting hate though? Because blowing up fast does not equate to getting hate. Let's get that out of the way. I'd say this is unique to Laroi because this is where Juice WRLD comes in. Laroi got so much backlash for that Juice collab simply because fans felt like Juice's passing was being used to push Laroi forward as an artist. Now, where exactly does the blowing up quickly comment I made come in? Well, it comes in right here because the Kid Laroi's blow up was almost a little bit too convenient in relation to Juice being gone, which gives the perception of an industry plan. So we started with he's risen extremely quickly to is the label using Juice WRLD's name to push Laroi to his blow up was too convenient, and then the last point, which is he an industry plan? These are the kind of questions people are asking, right?
Exactly.
This is why he's not only getting a lot of hate, but this is why people are surprised about his streams being so high, him passing both Uzi and Kendrick, and then this is when the who's listening to the Kid Laroi questions start popping up. Let me tell you why I think the Kid Laroi will end up just fine despite the fact that he's facing this crazy hate train. The Kid Laroi is the kind of artist who in the future, arguably even right now, is gonna be completely independent of the validation from hip-hop. This is the same thing Post Malone went through, which is why I've been using this comparison between him and Laroi. But remember how Posty came in the game wearing braids and rocking gold grills? He caught a lot of initial backlash for that. People were saying he was a culture vulture, all that. That was only in the beginning of his career though, because later Post Malone went so global to the point where that obstacle became a thing in the past. Laroi is obviously not wearing braids or rocking gold grills, but the point I'm trying to make is I use him as an example, by the way, because in a couple years, I think he's really going to solidify himself as more of a pop star than a rapper, just like Post Malone. It all comes down to the music, man, and I think Laroi has...
It all comes down to the music. I love that. Literally all comes down to the music, man, and this dude, Laroi, is very hungry for success, works hard, you know what I mean? Pull out great music. He's gonna be good. All of this is gonna be behind him, bro. Like Blackie said, man, a lot of people surprised that, you know, a new face in the industry is going crazy. Feel me? And a lot of people is giving the Kid Laroi backlash because of that song Remind Me of You, you know, putting, you know, the Kid Laroi in that song after 1 year of Juice WRLD passing. You know, it's crazy, but that song actually did pretty well, man. So the words gonna do all right, man. I'm not even worried about that, bro. He not even worried about that. He just continue making music and continue doing him. He's only 17 years old, bro. Only 17. He's gonna get better. He's gonna evolve. He's gonna do great things, man. Simple as that, man. Y'all let me know y'all thoughts in the comments, bro. I'm out of here.